Fajitas originated in Texas ranches during the 1930s, 40s. Mexican workers were often paid in cheap, fatty cuts of beef, like skirt steak. To make it edible, they marinated and grilled it, then served it in tortillas. For decades, it was a ranch hand's secret. In 1969, Sonny Falcon began selling them at a festival, sparking widespread popularity. Today, fajitas are made with shrimp, chicken, or prime cuts, but originally they were made from unwanted beef. Fettuccine Alfredo. The Italian version in Rome was simple, just butter and Romano cheese. The creamy, garlic-filled version we know today is an American adaptation from California. In the 1920s, Hollywood stars Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks discovered Alfredo sauce in Rome during their honeymoon. When they returned, they raved about it, sparking popularity in the U.S. American chefs modified it by adding cream, garlic, chicken, and fettuccine, creating the rich Alfredo we know today. Note: Italians rarely serve pasta with chicken. This was added for American tastes. Few dishes better represent Chinese-American food than chop suey. But despite its Chinese-sounding name, it isn't authentically Chinese. The most accepted story traces chop suey back to Cantonese immigrants in California during the 1880s. Many of these workers were in mining camps and had very limited ingredients available. To recreate the taste of home, they chopped up whatever meats and vegetables they had: bean sprouts, cabbage, celery, onions, pork, beef, eggs, and stir-fried them together in a savory sauce. The name chop suey loosely translates to assorted mix or odds and ends, which fits perfectly. The dish quickly spread beyond the immigrant community and became one of the first widely popular Chinese-American dishes. Although it doesn't exist in traditional Chinese cuisine, chop suey became so iconic that for decades Americans assumed it was authentically Chinese. In reality, it is a product of immigrant adaptation, making the best of what was available in America. Every St. Patrick's Day, Americans sit down to enjoy corned beef and cabbage, believing they are celebrating Irish tradition. The surprising truth? The dish is not Irish at all, it's Irish-American. In Old Ireland, beef was rarely eaten. Cows were considered too valuable for milk and farming. Instead, the Irish diet centered on pork, potatoes, and cabbage. When the British colonized Ireland, they introduced large-scale cattle farming, but the beef was mainly exported to England. Ordinary Irish people couldn't afford it. The corning process, using large salt crystals to preserve beef, was developed in Britain in the 1600s. For centuries, corned beef was a luxury food eaten in England and France, but not by the Irish themselves. When Irish immigrants arrived in America in the 19th century, things changed. For the first time, they could afford beef, thanks to Jewish butchers in New York who specialized in corned beef. Out of nostalgia, they combined it with potatoes and cabbage, foods that reminded them of home. The result was a hearty, affordable dish that quickly became associated with Irish-American culture. So while people may think of corned beef and cabbage as traditional Irish, it's actually a New York immigrant invention. English muffins. The name might suggest these came from England, but the English muffin is an American creation. In 1880, Samuel Bath Thomas, an English immigrant living in New York, wanted to replicate the English crumpet. Instead, he came up with something new: a flatter, less cakey bread that could be sliced and toasted. He originally called it the toaster crumpet. The bread became popular in upscale hotels and restaurants, but the name wasn't fancy enough. By the early 1900s, it was rebranded as the English muffin, which made it sound sophisticated and gave it an exotic flair. Ironically, English muffins weren't sold in England until the 1990s, when Thomas's company finally introduced them to the UK. So despite their name, English muffins are truly an American invention, one that fooled even the British. Spaghetti and meatballs. Ask most Americans what food represents Italy, and many will immediately say spaghetti and meatballs. Ironically, Italians never ate pasta with big meatballs. In Italy, meatballs, called polpette, were small, often no bigger than a golf ball. They were made with a mix of meats, breadcrumbs, and herbs. They were eaten on their own, not with pasta, and were considered a rustic dish of the poor. When Italian immigrants came to the United States in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, they suddenly found meat to be much cheaper and more accessible. This abundance allowed them to create much larger meatballs, sometimes the size of baseballs. At the same time, America had canned tomatoes widely available. Italians used them to make tomato-based sauces, which became the famous marinara sauce. By combining pasta, oversized meatballs, and marinara, Italian immigrants created a new American classic. Fun fact: even spaghetti itself wasn't originally Italian. It came from Asian noodles, most likely brought over by Arab traders in the 13th century. Italians adapted the noodle by using durum wheat, giving it its signature firmness. Over time, more than 350 types of pasta developed in Italy. Out of all these, spaghetti became the immigrant favorite in America. Thus, spaghetti and meatballs is not an authentic Italian dish, it is proudly Italian-American. German chocolate cake. When people hear the name German chocolate cake, they usually assume it must have come from Germany. But in reality, this dessert has nothing to do with the country at all. The story begins in 1852, when a man named Sam German, a baker working in Texas, invented a type of dark baking chocolate while working for the Baker's Chocolate Company. His creation was rich, sweet, and perfect for baking. The company named it German's chocolate after him. For about 100 years, it remained just another chocolate bar. That changed in 1957, when a Texas housewife sent her recipe for German's chocolate cake to a Dallas newspaper. The recipe used Sam German's chocolate to make a moist cake filled with pecans and coconut frosting. The recipe went viral before viral was even a word. Newspapers across the country reprinted it, and somewhere along the way, editors dropped the apostrophe and S, turning it into German chocolate cake. Since then, countless Americans have assumed the cake was German. In reality, it is a Texas-born creation, showing how a simple name change can forever alter people's perception of food.